Good evening. Welcome to this special edition of APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. The Moisie River in northeastern Quebec is renowned for its salmon. For decades, fishermen have come from all over the world to fish in it, but the Moisie is part of Innu territory. And now the Innu are reclaiming a river with a little help from their ancestors. This is part one of a series by Sylvie Ambrose, narrated by Jeff Doran.
Mr. Shivo.
This river, known as Mississippi to the Innu, is so beloved in their culture, it has been immortalized in this popular song. Mississippi translates as Great River. It has been the gateway of innumerable portages that have nourished the Innu for several millenniums. Innu families continue to use this over 300-kilometer natural highway to reach and occupy their land. With many tributaries, Mitsubishi, or Moisie River as it's known in Quebec, could take you just about anywhere in this vast Innu territory they call Nitaasinan.
À travers mes recherches, j'ai vu qu'il y avait plusieurs possibilités là, dans le territoire quand même, là, puis à travers en parlant avec d'autres aînés, puis ils ne prenaient pas juste la rivière Moisie.
Johan Jerome is a student for Laval University studying geography. He works in the summer for the Washat-Macminutiam Council, researching the history of the river. Jerome describes it as a passion and says his mission is to reopen the old portage trails along the Moisie.
La rivière Sainte-Marguerite, puis la rivière Macpaille, Saint-Jean, toutes les rivières étaient utilisées par les Innu quand même parce que pour tout dépendamment, le gibier, ils couraient après le gibier, après le caribou pour c'était ça pour survivre.
The portage trails were dotted with several stopping points. It is these same trails that the Innu are now attempting to renew by making expeditions.
Quand je trouvais à travers mes recherches, je trouvais dans les cartes, juste les toponymes, là, on voit que c'est quand même assez large. Je n'ai pas fait encore tout le côté, mais je sais juste en regardant ça, il y a d'autres portages qu'on est en train d'étudier puis qu'on veut rouvrir prochainement, peut-être dans les années à venir. Tu sais, il y a le portage du Cacadiette qui est très... c'est difficile, là.
One of the most important sites in the history of the Moisie River is the site des Pêches. Located in the middle of the river, this is a place where the pass is something you can touch. After using poles to move against the current of the river, the Innu would plant them in the riverbed once they were no longer needed. Jerome describes the first time he reached the pole site known as Kagajat.
Puis les gens, ils ressentent une grosse émotion quand ils arrivent là. C'est vrai, tu sais, tu ressens ça, regarde, une fierté en plus en tant qu'Innu d'avoir vu ça, puis de voir un tel site. Là. Puis souvent, on nous dit, tu sais, à l'école, on apprend, à l'école québécoise, c'est comme si on n'existait pas, tu sais.
Jerome says the preservation of the poles is due to the water and the type of soil of the riverbed.
Cet été, c'était justement ça, notre projet de recherche était axé sur ça, sur la datation des perches, puis on est monté avec des spécialistes. Pour l'instant, on n'a pas de date précise, mais selon les experts, ils disaient que c'est minimum 300 ans.
Jerome is confident that they are much older, but at the minimum, they are irrefutable evidence of the Innu occupation of the river, which is important because while most people now recognize the Moisie as part of the ancestral Innu territory, access to certain parts was refused for long periods to the Innu by private landowners. Some still refuse to recognize Innu rights here, but for Jerome, it's about more than the land. It's about culture and identity.
C'est pas juste le site qui est important, c'est tout le territoire, l'utilisation, l'histoire, notre histoire, c'est de restaurer notre histoire puis de donner ça aux bancs d'école, puis même en commençant par nos écoles à nous autres, puis on parlait de tout ça. C'était quoi? C'était juste une petite partie, là, on pourrait dire, le mode de vie là, des chemins de portage, mais il y a d'autres choses qui embarquent aussi, les légendes, les histoires. Il y a beaucoup de choses à apprendre, puis de leur donner ça aux jeunes, sais-tu, de voir, de renforcer l'identité Innu, puis on est des grands nomades.
Mr. Shivo, Mr. Shivo, Mr. Shivo.
For the next part of our Moisie River series, we will examine the importance of salmon in Innu culture. A story by Sylvie Amboise, APTN National News, Malinoutenam, Quebec.
Mr. Shibo, Mr. Shibo, Mr. Shibo.
We are going to take a break, but when we come back, part 2 of this series, it includes night harpoon fishing plus salmon smoking.
C'est vraiment la technique. Comment il m'a appris comment quand on mangeait ensemble en famille.
Welcome back. In northeastern Quebec, the Moisie River connects the Innu people to their ancestral hunting and fishing lands. For the second part of our series, APTN was invited to tag along for a session of night harpoon fishing, an ancestral practice that was once an act of rebellion that has since become an act of resilience and reclamation. This is a story by Sylvie Ambrose, narrated by Jeff Doran.
Mr. Shibo, Mr. Shibo.
Fishermen from all over the world come to fish the Moisie River. But long before American tourists discovered the river, the Innu were salmon fishing here.
Bueno, ici da magona chenno, da ba squad do sama squad do. Deni ni do deni gengi den, get da get to the hane. Twi hu jem di huin.
Modern salmon fishing is usually done in the day, but under the shadow of the night is the ideal time for an ancestral practice, harpoon fishing.
Mr. Shibo.
The Nipisis River, which translates as Little Stream, is an important site in the Innu relationship with salmon. Located 45 kilometers from the mouth of the Moisie River, this camp was recently bought by the Washat-Makaminulian First Nation in 2019 from its former non-Aboriginal owners. Camp Nipisis hosts Washat-Makaminulian members throughout the summer. Jean-Guy Mackenzie is preparing to give youth a demonstration of night harpoon fishing. According to Mackenzie, night fishing was a way to fish clandestinely, because for decades Innus were not allowed to fish here by the former owners of the Nipisi camp.
La lune rouge, la pêche commence.
It starts with a light.
L'aluminium qui brûle. Ici?
Non, ça brûle, ça brûle.
Back in the day, this light would have been a torch, and while it shines brighter than the traditional way, it's safer. According to Mackenzie, the torch served a dual purpose: to attract the salmon and also for the fisherman to see his prey in the depths of the water. The lessons continue with a demonstration of the technique. During his childhood, Mackenzie learned to aim for the salmon's head, because if you aim at the body, you may lose it by stabbing it in the tail. Mackenzie spends much of the night in pursuit. He crawls along the shore in search of his prey in several locations in the Nipisis. But for 2 hours, no bites. The normally abundant Nipissey River is giving nothing to Mackenzie this evening, but it won't prevent him from getting in his boat and trying again. Another activity for the Innu youth here is to learn smoking salmon. Maxime Rock explains that smoked salmon is traditionally eaten on big occasions, such as weddings.
C'est vraiment la technique. Comment il m'a appris quand on mangeait ensemble en famille autrement.
There are many ways to smoke a salmon, but Rock's preferred method involves going into the forest, finding a fallen tree, and harvesting some wood in the early stages of dry rot. According to Rock, this fine, extremely dry, almost powdery substance gives smoked salmon its flavor.
Les peaux rouges. Puis c'est drôle, là. Si tu le mets dans tes mains, je vais te donner un morceau, tu le feras. Puis tu vas sentir ce que je veux dire, le waterproof.
Because Innu territory is near the Gulf of the St. Lawrence, Rock uses sticks of wood collected on the beach discarded by the sea to feed the fire. He says salt water absorbed by the wood adds to the flavor.
Depuis que je fais ça, j'ai étudié ça pareil. Pourquoi il prenait, tu sais, pourquoi il revient autant souvent. Hein? Puis j'ai pu sortir de tout ça, puis c'est ce qu'on m'a dit, moi. C'est drôle comment que notre instinct de survie était fort. Je me dis, tu sais, pour trouver tous ces petits trucs-là, puis c'est à côté, là, c'est dans le bois qui est là, partout, là. Et voilà. Très pas compliqué.
Mackenzie, for his part, agrees with Rock's observation about the importance of the oral transmission of traditions.
On est à bout de man, c'est une autre. On va se conscientiser qu'une autre, c'est haben de nous, c'est d'autres. La relève, oui, tout. Quand le mec de 16 ans, 17 ans, des potes dans cette mode. Mais 5 ans, 6 ans, 7 ans, des potes.
For the Innu, the transformation of Camp Nipissey into a kind of cultural center is a step towards reclaiming the Moisie River.
Mr. Shibo, Mr. Shibo.
On the third and final part of our series, we'll examine what the future holds for what the Innu call the Mississippi, the Great River. A story by Sylvie Amboise, APTN National News, Malinoutnam, Quebec.
Mr. Shibo.
It's time for another break, but when we come back, part 3 of this stunning series. Stay with us.
C'est qu'il y a un déclin du retour en rivière du saumon.
In northeastern Quebec, the Innu people have recently taken a more active role in the conservation of their most important waterway, the 300-kilometer Moisie River. This has led to introspection on their contributions to the decline of salmon and a search for solutions to maintain the resource in the river that they call Mississippi, or the Great River. This is the final act of a 3-part series by Sylvie Ambrose, narrated by Jeff Doran.
Mr. Shibo.
Well, it's a normal, because I did it. So, man. I would get Mauerman. As my Mauerman. And I get told me.
Reginald Michel is one of the best fly fishers in the Innu nation, which is saying a lot, because the Innu love to fish.
Hey, when they, yeah, me done a Cuban school. When we just sweet, they pay me hand, is a chibot, my way talks it. Kayat mastaman huyat, and it was what me chigat. I said, oh, I didn't be me. When we just sweet.
Small as the lures may be, they could have a big impact on the preservation of the salmon population in the Moisie River.
En déclin, tu na mes chue meten dawan, ha nu na haben.
And he is not the only one to observe this problem.
C'est qu'il y a un déclin du retour en rivière du saumon.
Michel Villeneuve is the president of the Association for the Protection of the Moisie River. The association has had a history of tension with the Innu, but now there appears to be an interest in working together.
La vision que moi j'ai pour l'association, elle doit passer au-delà de la protection de la ressource. Il y a un phénomène social qui peut se passer aussi. Puis ça peut être un bel exemple de rapprochement puis d'histoire à succès dans les relations allochtones-autochtones.
Oui, le tirage. Betty Michelle is 27 and from the nearby Washat-Mac-Mani Yutnanam First Nation. Motivated by the need to protect the natural resources that have supported the Innu for generations. She has just joined the Moisie River Protection Association.
On est rendu là de devoir travailler ensemble, toujours pour la protection de la ressource. On voit qu'il y a un déclin.
Ici, en bleu, c'est ce qu'on appelle le club de pêche de la rivière Moisie. C'est comme un club américain privé.
Andre Michel is a biologist and the director of the Territory Protection for the Washat-Mac-Mani Yutnanam Band Council. He says that it is necessary to document this decline in order to find concrete solutions. But currently, there's a lack of data.
Parce qu'on dit que le saumon est en déclin, mais il n'y a pas eu d'inventaire depuis les années 80. Là.
Michelle is off a little, but not by much. The latest figures on the salmon population were collected in the 1990s. Back then, there were between 4,000 and 6,000 mountain salmon per year. There are several factors contributing to their decline in the Moisie River, including climate change. Michelle thinks that the first step is to change the fisheries code.
Le code de pêche, ça date quand même d'une vingtaine d'années, puis le code de pêche, c'était pas vraiment un code de pêche chez nous. C'était comme, je te dirais, c'est un code plus blanc, là, c'était des modalités de pêche qui étaient définies, le nombre de filets, la grandeur des mailles.
For Villeneuve, it is a question of developing relations with Indigenous people to promote a good agreement.
L'heure n'est pas à la chicane présentement. Il faut se rassembler. Il y a une crise de la ressource. Puis c'est pas en se chicanant. Pendant qu'on chicane, on n'aide pas la rivière.
But without a fishing code, it's hard for everybody to be on the same wavelength.
Puis ITUM sont en train de travailler sur un nouveau code de pêche. Puis je suis allée les voir, puis on a parlé de ça, puis j'ai proposé dans le fond à ITUM que le président Michel Villeneuve de la PRM vienne qu'on se rencontre.
Salmon fishing is an activity the Innu have been doing since time immemorial. So if they are told to fish differently, such as no longer doing harpoon fishing at night, these are difficult discussions to have.
C'est une ressource épuisable. Dans trois cas d'autres, faire la bonne gestion d'autres, je n'ai pas tant de chibou. Je n'ai pas tant de gens. Ils n'ont pas de droit au hibou. Moi, je peux demander.
Michel has not only spent years creating lures, he also started programs that encourage women to take up fishing because he thinks it's important to involve them in protecting salmon.
J'espère que au témoin de je qui école ici pour nous il doit se benigner il est joli na je sais on est la pêche féminine do dédi c'est j'ai formé d'autant.
Michelle says protecting the natural balance of the Moisie River is a collaborative effort. Bit by bit, young Innu learn traditional fishing methods, including the mindset to catch only what you need. Some say the likelihood of a good catch has decreased due to overfishing by American tourists.
On fait de la protection sur la rivière, ça veut dire aussi contrôler les pratiques de pêche qui pourraient être abusives ou néfastes pour le saumon. Notre rôle s'arrête là quand même parce qu'on a quand même juste un petit bout de rivière où est-ce qu'on travaille.
But it appears the Innu need to look in the mirror as well.
Salut Regina.
Salut Michel.
According to experts, one of the most harmful factors is netting. According to Michelle, net fishing was only done as a last resort after harpoon fishing failed.
c'est moi. Moi, je connais bien mes détails. Comment c'est le match, je vais te donner des choix, je vais te donner des abîmes, moi. Alors, je vais te donner des choix, alors, je vais ham wa benini. Si, wa tomati, on a mesh.
For his part, Andre Michel has some projects to increase the sustainability of salmon. One is encouraging the practice of releasing the fish after capture, as well as the introduction to fly fishing for children. For next year, he is also working on a technique to count the salmon.
C'est une technique qu'on appelle marquage, capture, recapture. C'est sûr que dans la cage, on va marquer les saumons. Après ça, on va les laisser retourner dans la rivière, puis au niveau de la pause migratoire du 1031, ils vont être scannés. C'est comme une puce électronique. On va savoir c'est quel saumon qui a été marqué avec le numéro.
For Reginald Michel, the same patience and care he takes to make his fishing lures needs to be applied to restoring the health of the Moisie River, even if the coming restrictions cause problems for the Innu.
Pour nous, 15 ans, ça va devenir une rivière à anguilles.
And even if there are some who will never understand the relationship between the Innu and salmon, those nearest to the cause agree. If nothing is done, the Innu identity is at risk, as is the natural abundance of Michishippu, the great river.
Mr. Shibo, Mr. Shibo.
A story by Sylvie Amboise, APTN National News, Malinutnam, Quebec.
Well, that is a wrap on this special edition of APTN National News. I hope you enjoyed this trip to Innu country in northern Quebec as much as we did here. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Have a great night.